So if you remember when we put this paddock in and we put the fence in, we only put one set of gate hooks on the far end. Well, because we don't have alley lead in this area, just because this is so far away from the dairy extension, we did not have a need. Well, when we had her, we didn't have a need to actually put another set of gate hooks on here. So I found some more gate hooks. I did that so that way they're just moved from paddock to paddock, especially when it's starting to get late. That makes it easier. So I'm actually I put a new hook in. Took me about 5 minutes. This grass is not doing bad. It's actually growing pretty well. It's actually probably growing stronger than some of the paddocks closer to the garden with better bahia. You see all the seeds coming up the seed heads. So what they don't eat, I'm gonna then turn around and just cut it, and that way that'll hopefully weed out. Funny, huh? Hopefully it will kind of drown out the rest of anything that's in here that shouldn't be. This field was really grown by the sheep. This was not the best field, but the more I put sheep on it, the better the rotation got. I honestly believe the sheep do better for regenerative ag on the grass than even cattle to me. Now, cattle is what we base our farm on because we like cattle taste a little bit better than sheep. But to be honest with you, I actually think the sheep do better with grass management, the manure spreading, and they actually don't have as much of a picky palate. So I do think for the long run, the sheep are very good for our management program to make our grounds better for our cattle. It's almost like they become the appetizer for the main meal. So I think it's really good to have them as a essential part of my farm that is really just a good supportive cast. And I know that sounds strange, but I think the more that we do this, the more we realize how important every aspect of our farm is. And the sheep play a very vital role in that. I have our pigs making new area, sheep cleaning that area up and making better quality for the cows to turn around and to be able to eat. And actually I can eat every part of that cycle, but it just seems like they work better going hand in hand. Pigs, sheep, cattle. Pigs, sheep, cattle. It's a good thing and a bad thing. We're in a very low area, but we've gotten a lot of rain. So I want to show you this, and this shows that we're not losing our water. However, we want to build it to where our pastures don't hold water either. They naturally let it go into the earth. But I want you to see how much rain we've gotten over the last few days. So look, this is in a pasture. And don't get me wrong, I like the fact that our rain is not just leaving our farm. However, I don't need it just building up so much water that it turns the pH, change the pH, and takes all my good fertility off either. Kind of a mixed bag. Our pastures are really starting to look good in the back. And our pastures are really starting to look good right by the dairy extension. But as we try to develop better pastures, especially in the new areas, and to keep these pastures looking as good as they do, we need to make sure that we're having a good organic compost and a good organic mass staying and a good bit of water staying, but that we don't have too much just hanging in our ground and hanging on top of our ground, because I'm scared that will cause pH issues and also weed issues. It's always a fight to have a healthy grass management program. Man, moving this water, this is a 200-gallon water. It can get kind of heavy moving across fields. These water lines in and not having to use water hoses all the time. Oh my gosh, what a lifesaver and time saver. So I cannot complain. So when I move this big water, at least I'm right by a spigot within like 5 foot. So that does make it easier to not have to pull hose on top of this. So because we used to have to pull hose right after we moved this big monster water. We'd be pulling hose. So I'm glad I'm not doing that. At least it does make it a little bit easier. You know what wasn't smart? Because I guess I should check these bottom gates down here. I don't think one of them's locked. I'm gonna walk down here while the cows are eating in the grass. Walk down here and see if I've got these gates closed, because I don't want to be chasing cows. Yeah, as thick as this grass is. Gotta watch for snakes. I had a snake come out on me in the garden. It was just a king snake, so I just kind of let it go, kind of helped it get along its way. But over here I'm a little bit more worried about moccasins.
Well, we just had our first fun mess from Livy. Thank you so much, Livy. We're reading instructions and she got put down by the glass and knocked one over. Don't know what I'm gonna do about that. I see that happening more and more in my near future. So we're gonna have to come up with a plan. For now, I just bought a high chair, a used high chair, and she's just gonna get strapped in the chair because that's the only way I can do anything without having to hold her. Yeah, fun stuff, Livy, fun stuff.
Gates closed, walking back. Sometimes when I walk through this dense forest here, I can just stop. A lot of times we're running, we don't realize how beautiful it is just to hear the birds, and there's some crickets chirping. It's just pretty. I think the more that we do in a regenerative way on our farm, I think it actually helps our farm grow and be more alive. I know that sounds crazy, but I can just stand here and just hear nature, and it's so nice. And a lot of times if we would just pause and just enjoy this instead of always running, because I catch myself, gotta go, gotta beat, you know, the time. Sometimes it's just nice to hear the birds chirp, the crickets going, and hearing the cows graze, the pigs snort, and the lambs call. So it's just nice. It's just, sometimes you just have to stop and hear it. Well, while we're on this side of the farm, I want to show you. Look at our pumpkins. Man, they are jamming. They look so good. Look at that. So I'm thinking my corn crop may have become a deer crop. So I don't see any corn coming up yet, but I see it dramatically picked over by deer prints. So I guess that's good. I guess deer coming this way makes me happy. We're gonna set up the sheep. I told you we were just trying to make areas that we don't want to bush hog and cut sheep fields. So we're going back in this area again. They grazed it probably, I don't know, 3.5, 4 weeks ago. It's come back up. I really like it a little bit deeper in the season growing. I'd rather them not come on it yet, but the grass is pretty good. Really, I guess with the rains, it's made it pop on up really good, and I don't want it to get too deep because it is close to water and it'll hold water if we don't let them go ahead and graze it. So I think I'm gonna bring them back in here and let them just work this area. I'm not saying this won't ever be a cattle field going into the trees right there, because that's where the other field is, where the old sheep field is, where the cows just came from. So it may be a way that we can kind of make this all pasture through here. So the more I put the sheep on it, the better it gets. It does help when all the animals are close together for Aiden, especially because he's been doing our chores. We're getting kicked off with school again, which is crazy. So by having the pigs, the sheep, and the cattle all right here, he can check waters and make sure everything's looking good while I'm at work. And then when I come home to do some chores, to have them all together for this week and a half, 2 weeks of movement, it really does make it easier on me to be able to kind of look at everything at one time. Even some of the gardens, this is some of our fall garden stuff, so it really helps me to kind of look at everything kind of as an overview situation and make sure everything's okay.
Hi, is it my turn?
Colby. No, Aiden. I believe that Mr. Green done it in the dining room with the lake.